Good evening. Welcome. The Washington County Board of Education is holding a public hearing this evening. The purpose of this evening's meeting is to provide an opportunity for the Board of Education to receive comment from the public regarding the proposed attendance zone realignment recommendations for a new Sharpsburg Elementary School. We'll begin this evening with a presentation by staff, which will include a summary of the process to date, followed by a presentation of the recommended boundary realignments and attendance zones. Good evening.
Thank you, President Williams. This is the first time I think I've ever presented anything with my back to the board, so this is going to be interesting. I believe they are loading the presentation, so we are here tonight to go through the proposed recommendations for a new Sharpsburg Elementary attendance zone for the school year 2020-2021. All the recommendations that are going to be reviewed this evening would not take effect till the 2020 school year. So summary of the process that we've had to date. About a year ago, the board issued a charge to the Facility Enrollment Advisory Committee to develop a new Sharpsburg Elementary attendance zone and to provide enrollment relief for the adjacent elementary attendance zones in the area. Since they received that charge, the committee met 6 times. They reviewed 8 different attendance zone realignment options. On November of 2018, they presented a preliminary report to the board to solicit input and comments. The committee then went back and reviewed updated enrollment information, came back in February with a final report that they presented to the board where they had pared down the 8 to about 3 recommendations. The board handed the Facility Enrollment Advisory Committee off to the superintendent. The superintendent took all of March to review the report. He endorsed the report from the committee to the Board of Education, and tonight we are here for a public hearing to solicit input from citizens on those 3 recommendations. After this evening, sometime in May, potentially, it's tentative, there would be a vote on the attendance zone realignment. Some of the communication of this process during the entire course of the work for the Facility Enrollment Advisory Committee, all of the meeting minutes, all of the progress reports, the charge was available on the WCPS website. The superintendent's report, when it came out in March, it was distributed to all 3 of the impacted elementary schools. It was also put at the Center for Education Services at the main desk and available online for all individuals to see. We sent notification via backpack flyers out with all students at all 3 of the elementary schools. We sent letters out to every address that were in one of the recommendation areas, whether there was a student in one of our schools or not. We identified the address through the help of Washington County, and we sent notification to that particular parcel owner. We also utilized our WCPS Connect system to send out emails, phone calls. You probably heard from Mr. Kaufman and got a voicemail from him. Local media communication of this process has been covered through our Facebook page, through the Herald Mail, and through Channel 99 announcements. So, down to the 3 recommendations. The current elementary attendance zones are shown behind me with the current Sharpsburg Elementary attendance zone in white. If we work in kind of a counterclockwise fashion, the purple elementary attendance zone is the current Pleasant Valley Elementary. The blue attendance zone is the current Boonsboro Elementary attendance zone. And up at the top of the screen is in brown is the Rockland Woods Elementary attendance zone and the Fountain Rock Elementary attendance zone in green. The 3 recommendations that were presented from the Facility Enrollment Advisory Committee and are under consideration by the board are shown on the screen in white. The committee, as they worked through this process, they tried to look at adjacent areas to the existing Sharpsburg Elementary attendance zone. They tried to stay next to major roads. They tried to grab areas where some population would be kind of centered. Obviously they didn't want to come in with a island recommendation out in the Greenbrier Elementary attendance zone or out in Hancock or somewhere like that. They tried to stay next to the existing Sharpsburg Elementary attendance zone, also to keep some of the transportation and ride times down as well. So going into the recommendations, boundary realignment recommendation number 1 reassigns approximately 11 K through 5 students from Boonsboro Elementary to Sharpsburg Elementary. If you look at this area, it includes pretty much most of Kaufman Farms Road, a couple addresses along Shepherdstown Pike, and a couple other little areas. This is just to the northwest of the county's Division of Highway Departments and just to the northwest of the town of Keedysville. In fact, a portion of the town boundary of Keedysville extends in this area. And for those of you that may have a question on whether you're impacted or not, myself and staff will be available outside in the lobby after this to review these maps in detail to help you determine whether you could or could not be impacted. Boundary realignment recommendation area number 2 is just south of this area shown on the map. It reassigns approximately 101 K-5 students from Boonsboro Elementary to Sharpsburg Elementary, and it is best described as the incorporated town of Keedysville. Again, this is southeast of Shepherdstown Pike. You can kind of see basically the town of Keedysville. I did receive a call from a citizen last week that had a Keedysville mailing address, and I had to explain to her that they have a U.S. postal address with Keedysville, and the title is not the same as living in the town of Keedysville, which she understood. So I do want to make that clarification because it might have been misunderstood when I presented it at the February meeting. The third and final recommendation that's under consideration by the board is to reassign approximately 18 K-5 students from Pleasant Valley Elementary to Sharpsburg Elementary. This particular area is along Chestnut Grove Road. It goes up to Nick Lane and comes down to Rocky Road. This is obviously adjacent in the southern portion of the current Sharpsburg Elementary attendance zone and kind of the middle section of the existing Pleasant Valley Elementary attendance zone. So part of the reason the committee was asked to look and to make these recommendations without doing anything in 2021, Boonsboro Elementary is projected to be 121% of its state-rated capacity. It's going to be full. It currently has 4 portable classrooms that is being utilized. Pleasant Valley's right behind it. It's going to be 109% of its state-rated capacity in 2021. And the new Sharpsburg Elementary that will be completed in time for that school year will have a new state-rated capacity of 471 students. I will throw in a plug here if you'd be interested to see any of the plans or the layout of the new Sharpsburg Elementary. We have those out in the hallway as well, along with the principal, Mr. Allshouse here. He just waved to answer any questions that anyone may have with that as well. So, with the 3 recommendations that are being presented, if implemented by the board, it would reduce Boonsboro Elementary's enrollment to a projected 100% of its state-rated capacity in 2021. It would reduce Pleasant Valley Elementary to 101% of its state-rated capacity in 2021, and it would bring Sharpsburg Elementary up to just over 90% of its state-rated capacity. With that, I'm going to hand it back over to the board unless there's any further questions or need for me.
Thank you, Mr. Criswell. In accordance with Board Policy KD, this hearing has been scheduled for up to 2.5 hours. We may not need that entire time. And at this time, I'll open the floor for public comment. We'll hear first from those who have signed up in advance of this evening, and then from anyone else who wishes to comment. Persons speaking as individuals will be allotted 3 minutes. Persons representing an organization will be allotted 5 minutes. Speakers are encouraged to provide a minimum of 9 copies of their testimony to the board. This, however, is not a requirement, so don't worry if you don't have anything to distribute to board members. Each speaker is asked to state his or her name and address, and if representing an organization, the name of that organization. The first speaker I have listed is Shelley LaBelle. Ms. LaBelle, would you like to come to the microphone, please?
Hello, my name is Shelley LaBelle. I live at 6332 Kaufman Farms Road, so I am affected. And so I came before you today because I am the mom of a special needs child. And so we often find ourselves in front of various people explaining what is necessary for our special needs child to level the playing field, to even get them on the field. And so when you systematically cut a swath of geographic land, you have to be aware of who you're affecting. And so when you take a zip code or these people, you have to understand that there's children involved, special needs children, and you can say, oh, little Johnny will meet new friends at his new school. Well, that's not always the same for special needs children, especially those who have communication issues. And so my proposal is that I want you to be aware of is that those children who are on an IEP, regardless of what, the IEP, whether it's for twiddling thumbs or speech or behavior or whatever, those parents should be allowed to decide whether they want to stay at the school in Boonsboro or go to the new school. And I think that's something that they can, they would know their children best. They can work with the IEP team. But when you call me and you ask me my feelings on it beforehand on this meeting, and you say, well, this isn't really about little Johnny's T-ball schedule. Well, that doesn't really help the special needs parents. We're always hearing that. Like, it doesn't matter, or our feelings aren't, taken into consideration. Or when you say, well, you can submit a form and include a lot of documentation. Well, that's what we always do. We always have tons of paperwork to fill out. IEPs are like a book. So I want to make the transition easier for us. I want those kids affected to be able to make those decisions. And so I want you to keep that in mind, who you're affecting when you cut through geographic lines. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. LaBelle. I have no other individuals signed up. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward for comment? No? Okay. Well, this concludes public comment, and I will say that in accordance with Board Policy JCA and Administrative Regulation JCA-R, the Board is to act on the Superintendent's recommendation within 60 days of the public hearing period, unless the Board votes to solicit further input. The Board is required to vote for any change in attendance zones and announce any changes at least 90 days prior to the effective date of implementation. Our Board is expected to vote on this matter in May. After this evening's hearings, any comments or any questions may be submitted to the Public Information Office by email, phone, or U.S. mail. You have that up? Okay. So I thank you to all who have attended, and with that, we'll adjourn our hearing.